Hey guys, Ryan from Spyker Workshop here, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to assemble the latest changes on the Spyker cat. This is the version 2, and most of this video will be mainly like a guideline, but I'll show you how step by step to put the new transmission together. This is the hardware that will be in a conversion kit if you order it from me. Otherwise, if you order the cat for the first time, all this will already be included in it. All the latest things you buy from me will be already updated. But yeah, let's get started. So these are some of the screw changes that aren't in the main build series of how to build the chassis. Sorry I haven't got around to making an actual instruction manual yet. I still will be. It's just I just haven't had time all winter. But yeah, the changes are pretty simple. If you already followed the whole chassis build, your cat is pretty much still pretty much good. Just a couple things changed, like the rear idler tension. It used to use M4 screws, but I changed them all over to M5. So it uses an M5 button. Let me zoom in here. It uses those screws there now. And it still works the exact same as the instruction video. And alright, I forgot to put it in here. Also, I use a washer on those too. And then another change is this hardware over here. The M3x50 cap. 4 of those with 4 lock nuts. There's also a new drill guide, so you'll have to. You probably already have used that if you downloaded all the stuff from my site, though. But those screws I just showed you, they go through here, and you put the lock nut before you put this part on. The lock nut's like buried inside of there. But all this screw does is it just adds some strength here, because on my Speed Cat video I had cracks form there, so I put these screws on to make sure that doesn't happen. And it's the same thing on the front. You can see the nut there. It looks the exact same back here, but it's just inside that piece. And then some more changes. Most of these changes just strengthen up the hull, but it's 12 of the number 2 by 3/4, and let's see, 8 of the number 2 by 3/8. So the extra or the new 3/4 inch ones, those long ones here, these go in. You can see there's a little screw right here. Those go in there, and that's on all 4 sides. See it over right here. And then the other 8, oops, sorry about that. The other 8 screws go in right here and on the other side. And all this does is just strengthen up the hull, so if you run into stuff with the sprocket, it just has a lot more strength. Yeah, and then the last screws, I think I just included as spares. These don't actually, there's not any new places for these. I think I just included some extra ones in the latest kits, because it uses a lot of those throughout the whole hull. But yeah, that's all the changes to the hull itself. Next, I'm going to start showing you how to put the new transmission together. So here's everything you'll need to start building the new transmission. And this is the aluminum upgrade, obviously, but this entire assembly sequence is the exact same for the new 3D printed transmission. The only difference is all these plates are just 3D printed if you didn't get this upgrade, but it all goes together the exact same. There's only a couple changes which I'll be going through later, but what you see here works for the printed version. And then for the aluminum upgrade, there's a couple new pieces. if you got the aluminum upgrade, it'll only come with 2 of those and then 4 of these, because the printed version does not have that adjustable center tension for the belt system like these. Only the aluminum upgrade has that. I wasn't able to get that in the printed version just because there wasn't enough space in the transmission, and the pulleys would rub up against the plastic and it just didn't work right. But the aluminum version works perfectly. Alright, so we'll start assembling it. So the first thing you'll want to do is push in all the rods into the gears. If the rod is a little loose, like in the 3D printed pulleys, you might want to use like some super glue on them, just a dot, just so the shaft doesn't come out. But on the Delrin ones, I use a hammer to get them in there because they have a pretty tight fit on them. Yeah, I forgot to mention, make sure you use a rubber hammer or a mallet so you don't mess up the end of the shaft. And I pounded them through using a socket on the back so you could get it to pound through, you know. And you want to have it just even on both sides. So some of this hardware you already have in the kit, like the belts and the bearings. So I have it laid out as if this was the front of the cat, so the transmissions be facing that way, and like, you know, left and right. So to start with here, actually I forgot, this actually takes 4 of these, 2 on each side. So the way we're going to lay it out is one of these pockets is kind of rounded out, or ovaled out, I guess. You want to put it so the whole of that faces like that over those 2 holes there. So it'd be the opposite on this side, like that. And then same with the other 2. And then we're going to put the bearing through here, down into that pocket. And then also bearings on all of them here, like this. Then we're going to start putting the pulleys in. It gets a little confusing here. We're going to use 2 of those on each, and the longer belt on that one, shorter one on this one here. And we'll want to start with this one, the one that has the smaller teeth on it, facing down in this right here. And yeah, I should mention too, the printed version. Printed version is the exact same, except not including this. The printed version just has 2 fixed holes where the bearings go in, but it isn't that big of a deal. So then the other one here, we're going to load both belts on it like this, on each side of the teeth there. And then this one goes face down, and you put the belt on that one while it's going down in the bearing. So it should sit like that. Actually, I forgot, this belt goes on underneath there. So here I have all the belts preloaded on here. It should look like this. And then we're going to take the other side and flip it over on top like this. And then I'm going to do the same for the other side just to get it ready. This side starts basically the mirrored version of that, where this one goes down here with this side facing down, and then I'll put on the other ones here. So that one looks like that, and then this piece gets flipped up on top of it here. There we go. a little hard to keep together, but we're going to get onto that next here. So for this next step, I'm going to show you how to build the aluminum version, and then I'll talk about the differences of the printed one afterwards. So to start with, we're going to start by putting in this center beam here. It's the 7/8 inch long spacers here. The printed version does not have these, but for this one it's easiest to hold everything together. So we'll put this in the top like here, and then I'll put the same one in the bottom. Yeah, I forgot to mention that if you buy the aluminum kit from me, it comes with some extra screws that the printed kit doesn't. Some number 4 by 1/2 inch machine screws and 4 number 4 washers. And that's what we're going to be using on the top and bottom of that post. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Also, make sure on all these machine screws going into these that you use some thread locker. Just a very small amount of thread locker like that is all you'll need. So here I have the screws put in on the top using the 7/8 inch spacer. And then next we're going to do the bottom. Uses the same spacer there, and instead we're going to be using 2 of the number 4 by 3/8 flathead on the bottom. So I put those on the bottom. Next we're going to use the 1 inch one, and those go on the top of each one of these with these same screws. So there I have the 1 inch ones on both sides, left and right. So if you're using the printed plates instead of the aluminum ones, the only difference is this one down here will also be a 1 inch one, and there is not any beam up here on the printed version. So next we're going to start the back half here, and the one that has a hole in it goes across from this plate here. And the way that this works is we take We take 3 of these and 2 of these, and these little tiny spacers will go on top of this like this, in between here, and then in between here will be one of these, the 3/4 inch, and then through right here, these 2 holes on top and bottom, we're going to be using these longer screws, these ones here. And then on the other side, we'll be using the shorter ones. So I'll put it together and show you what it looks like. So I started them like this. I'm put the 3/4 inch spacers on this side like this, in these 3 holes, not in this one here. And then make sure the belt is fed through like this on the inside of these, and then on the outside of that. And then on this one, it's just on the inside of those, like this here. And then that space here, we're going to take the motor plate, and it goes like this. And then those little tiny spacers here, those go in between there with the long screws. And then we use the short screws to finish up on this side. And then it's the same on this one here, like this. So I have all that assembled now. Let's see what it looks like here. Same with this side. So next thing is we have to get this printed part attached here. So on these there's a right and a left. One side has an angled slant on top. That angled slant goes, or actually it's this way here. The angled slant goes towards the motor mount, like this. And then there's a nut trap on this side, so we're going to preload the M5 lock nut on each one of these. So I found a quick issue just to let you guys know. The drill guide for these, you should drill this hole out slightly larger. I did it like 5.8 millimeters, just because when I was screwing in this bolt, I had an issue of it not engaging in the nut on the other side. I think it was just not aligned perfectly. So if you drill that out larger, it'll be able to catch the nut a lot easier. So when you have both lock nuts in there, like this, you're going to take the side that has this big slant and put it just like this towards the motor mount. And then you'll see those two screws line up on each side. And on those two sides, we're going to put a number 4 by 1/2 inch flat screw. And that's on both sides. This one goes all the way back like this, though. So here I have the printed parts installed. And if you notice that it's like pulling the plates together, you can leave these screws loose. They don't have to be very tight. This part will actually pull the transmission back to tension up the final belt drive once we get it installed here. So the next thing is to let's take the motors and the motor pinions here. And if you ordered these stock ones from me, I just realized they don't actually have flats on the shafts. You're going to have to grind a flat on there for the set screw. It doesn't have to be very big, just enough for the little tiny set screw to hold on to something. And then I'm going to put these on, but not tighten the set screw yet. Wait to do that until it's fully installed in the transmission, so you can adjust the, like, how it sits on the shaft. So I'm going to do all that. So once you have the pinions just loosely set screwed on there, we're going to take the screws from the kit that are for the motor, the M3 screws and the washers, and then it connects on this side here, and while you're putting it in there, you want to load the belt over the pinion and then screw the motor in, and make sure to use thread locker on everything. And then this side goes in the opposite here, like this, and make sure the belt is on it. So I have this motor screwed on, and I'm leaving both of these screws loose and the set screw loose. And then to actually start tensioning everything up, what you have to do first is loosen these two top screws here. And then this is only on the aluminum version. The printed version you don't have to do this on. But what you want to do is pull this back, because this is how you see how it has some adjustability to it. That's how you adjust the tension for this belt right here. So you want to pull it back to make tension on that belt, and then tighten these down. And then once this is adjusted, then you can adjust the belt tension on this one, and also adjust how the pinion sits there to keep the belt in line. So I'm going to do all that to both of these here. So here I have both of the motors attached now. Belt tension's all adjusted. So next is to put them in the hull. Okay, so to actually start installing the transmissions, here's the hardware you'll need. And the first thing to do is take these pulleys here. And this gets covered in the normal video for the most part, but I'll just go over it quick here. But you feed in that pulley down in there. And we're going to do it on both sides. And then you'll want to use some kind of flathead to push the gear down in there. And then this is from the normal cat video. And we're going to line it up through here. And then I'm going to do that on the other side. Yeah, once you have each side put in that gear. Then we're going to use the number 6 by, I believe, 3/8. It's the one that comes with the kit. This we're going to put in the end of the drive shaft. So I had to remove this part just to get at those holes here. And then I used a long hex wrench to tighten it all the way down. So both transmissions should be in there. And then next thing we're going to do is take these two printed parts with the number 4 by 1/2 inch screws, and those get screwed down on top of the transmission here on both sides. So once you have those top plates put on, next thing is on the bottom side, you're going to take the number 6 by 3/4 inch and 2 washers, and those screw in on those slots here, and leave them loose so you can still slide the transmission around. So there I have the screws in there. Leave them loose enough so you can still move the transmission around. And then the next and last thing to do is these long M5 by 70 millimeter screws. So yeah, these screws go in here like this, and then they feed into, if you can see, they feed into that nut that we put in that printed part. And you're going to want to tighten it all the way down until it starts tensioning up the motor belt here. So if you see, the transmission can slide. That's actually adjusting the final drive pulley. So you'll want to, like, don't over tighten it, but tighten it all the way down just enough so it pulls the belt tight. And do that on both sides. So once you get that screw close to being tight, you can see that since you can slide the transmission up and down. Let me zoom in here. So you can actually see the screw head move in and out. You want to adjust the tension like just after it stops being able to move. Then you'll know that the belt tension is pretty good on the final drive. And I found the right sockets in a hex head just to make this whole tightening process easier. But you'll notice once it gets tight enough too, because we're tightening this belt right here, the final drive, you'll notice when it gets tight enough, see how the belt still moves up and down a little when I spin it? It's probably a little too loose still. Just like a quarter of a turn at a time. And then once it's fully adjusted, it should be nice and smooth like this. And then do the same thing on the other side. And then once you have all that done, you can go back to the other video and pick up where you left off, because everything else is still the same with the version 2 cat. So thanks for watching, and check the links below to get linked back to the right time on the other video. So thanks.